I'm glad you're still with us. Apologies for the glitch there, but the Kickstarter conversation is upon us right now. And CAF rescheduling the CHAN 8th edition is what we are going to be talking, including tracking progress in sports infrastructure development in the country and the CAF's dedication to infrastructure and organizational standards that maybe countries that have been given an opportunity to host the showpiece in the world of football may not be able to meet, but a chance has been given unto us. The highly anticipated Africa Nations Championship, initially set to be hosted in Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania in February 2025, has been postponed to August 2025 due to what was described as infrastructure delays. This conversation is going to do a deep dive into exactly why we are at this point and maybe an introspection into our infrastructure development programs in as far as sports is concerned. I have with me on set Elvis Senono, who's just told us a lot of what we must look out for, especially when that update came through. Elvis Senono, I'm glad you're still with us on the show. I'm also joined by Ivan Ojakol. He's a lawyer that has decided to take deep dives into sports, and his understanding of these matters will illuminate our own, especially as far as the development is concerned. Let me first begin with the man who has the sports docket on his fingertips. You gave us an update on this particular development in light of the statement that was outed by CAF, the one that said infrastructure delays have occasioned upon them the decision to postpone the CHAN to August. Take us through the statement, how the news was received, but also the reasoning behind this particular postponement.
The reasoning is simple. East Africa is not ready. East Africa are not ready. And for me, it's not a surprise that the tournament has been postponed. By the way, many people have forgotten, but this is the second postponement. Initially, the tournament was supposed to be held around September last year. But it was pushed to the start of February, but that has also failed. And now we are moving to August. And so they're trying to attract some other heavyweights in African football to also take part. But for me, the choice, maybe some people might say I'm a bit unpatriotic and all, but the choice of East Africa was always going to be a tricky one. A tricky one. Because we have a country like Kenya. They were offered the rights to host the Africa Cup of Nations in 1996, and they were stripped of those rights. They failed. Eventually, it went to South Africa, and they won the tournament. In 2018, they were again granted hosting rights for CHAN, and failed. When you look at the progress of the three countries, the three co-hosts, you can see that Kenya, of the three, is the one that lags a bit behind in terms of the facilities. Uganda's issue, for example, has been about mainly the training facilities, because at the moment, Uganda has just the one stadium that fits FIFA standards, or can host a tournament at the level of CHAN, and that is Mandela National Stadium in Nambole. When we are joined by Rogers Mulindwa, he'll probably have something to say about Nachivugo, but we all know why, say, the AFCON qualifiers have not been played at the facility, because of so many issues. But mainly it's about the access routes to Nachivugo. That's the major sticking point. As well, there are a few other things that need to be sorted out. Now, these are pictures that we got yesterday from Wankurukuku. Now this is the Kadiba. This is the Kadiba. The first pictures were from Wankurukuku. Now this is the Kadiba. This is a video
Kadiba that being the training facility.
One of the 4 training facilities that were put out, or that were listed, and that were supposed to be used. Now maybe this is not in a bad state, the playing pitch, but the access route to Kadiba is also being tarmacked at this point in time. It was a Maram road. Now this is Wankurukuku, and was also going to be used as a training facility. But mainly, they were fixing the dressing rooms and the washrooms and all, what has been in place cannot even be described here. One said it was really pathetic. So for Uganda's case, the Mandela National Stadium outside pitch is already in good condition, and so would be sufficient, but you need about 4. The other ground is Kisu, Kampala International School. Yeah. It's the one that was also being considered in Bukoto. So that one is also ready. They have pretty good facilities, but by and large, the 3 East African nations were not ready. Mainly, you could say Tanzania have the stadiums already in place, and the training facilities, and then for Uganda, some of the training facilities had not yet been completed, and imagine if the tournament were to be held 2 weeks from now. And then for Kenya, they still have a bit of issues with their stadia, and I was reading somewhere that Kasarani especially, work is going to be used, but will be completed after, and then prepare it for the Africa Cup of Nations that's also supposed to be held again in East Africa. So that's basically the state of our infrastructure in especially Uganda.
Interesting there. Ivan, this particular development is not something to write home about in all contexts. It's a damning assessment of a country's ability to host an event as big as this particular football showpiece. But CAF has basically given us the benefit of the doubt and said we can pull this off. Before we even talk about whether we can pull it off, how did you receive this news, and what does it basically mean to you?
Thank you very much. Well, of course, like I said, the word you used is damning. It's quite damning and indeed quite an embarrassment, and speaks volumes about the state of countries like ours. Because, like I've always argued, you cannot divorce sports from the wider governance issues, from the wider economic issues of a country. So yes, embarrassment, damning, but also hopefully a lesson, and also a lesson for those the powers that be, but also, like you mentioned, benefit of doubt, meaning that perhaps now we have an opportunity to get our house in order, hopefully by August, so that we don't embarrass ourselves and have a third postponement, or even this time a total termination of the tournament, or tournament be given to another country or a couple of other countries. So yeah, it speaks volumes, and perhaps that is why this region has perhaps lagged behind, or even has no AFCON championship. I mean, things like these go a long way and speak volumes in showing the state of our sports, or even football for that matter, in Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's very interesting. But allow me to go back to saying Elvis said on this, especially now that we have a new timeline within which to be ready. I do not know whether the standing committee, what other people would choose to describe as the organizing committee for Uganda in terms of preparation, has had a moment to share what they have shared with CAF in terms of convincing the continental body that actually the time they've been now given is sufficient and they will actually pull this off. Has there been any reassurance
from
FUFA, Uganda?
There is a local organizing committee that was instituted, and it has members from the National Council of Sport, obviously that part of government, the Ministry of Education and Sport, the minister as well, the full Minister of Education and Sport, that is Janet Museveni, and then the Minister of State as well, Ogwang is involved, the NCS General Secretary, Dr. Patrick Bernard Ogwell, the FUFA President, Moses Magogo, is Vice Chairman of the committee. And this is new ground for me for Uganda. This is new ground, and we also have to understand where Uganda is coming from, because it's the first time Uganda is trying to host a major continental football event. We started with the Africa Cup of Nations, but we've not been here before. So it's just, for example, we have just the one ground that fits the FIFA standards, and that is Mandela National Stadium. But also, it's also been under renovation. And many of the stakeholders don't know what is required. Even at this point in time, there are still changes that are happening at Nachivubo. We saw of the turf that is being changed. They think they're adding a bit of a synthetic layer to it to make it easily accessible. So we are learning on the job for many of the aspects. And so it was always going to be very, very difficult and for the country to match the standards that CAF and FIFA want. And so, first of all, the infrastructure is lacking. We've not had the stadiums. We have just Nambole, and then the others are being constructed, probably with a view of hosting in 2027 AFCON. You have the Hoima Stadium, you have Nachivubo, which is continuously undergoing changes because the way it was constructed, it would only be fit maybe to host. There is a game actually this evening involving the national under-17 girls team, the Teen Cranes. They'll be hosting Namibia for the 2 legs. Both legs will be played at Nachivubo, but that's the level at which Nachivubo is at the moment. So it's basically new ground for us, and we are learning many of these aspects that were needed. So for me, it's not a surprise that we are where we are. First of all, we've struggled over the years to have all this infrastructure in place, or maybe it's not been our priority. Sport has not been much of a priority in this country. So at this point, you have to understand where we're coming from, and actually you can even give some little credit to the government for at least now focusing, or at least making it intentional, that they are constructing stadiums. Maybe it will take quite long and might not even be done in the timeline that CAF or FIFA want, but at least there are stadiums that are being constructed. Whether they become white elephants or not thereafter is another point altogether. But there are grounds that are being constructed and are going to be used for sport mainly. The other activities will come in later. So as a country, there is some progress that has been made with the construction of those stadiums. If you have one in Lira, there's one that is being constructed in Masaka. There is the one in Hoima.
There's a picture of one in Hoima.
Yes, the one in Hoima.
Looks quite impressive.
Yeah, and the speed at which works are being done
is that the same
impressive.
Speed in Lira and Masaka?
No. Hoima, because it was identified as one of the grounds that would be used if Uganda were to host the 2027 Nations Cup, AFCON.
Yeah.
But for the other facilities, they've been in the pipeline. Lira, there was there was a structure that was put up about 4 or 5 years ago, and they secured, I think, a grant for its construction. Then there is Masaka. Then there was the Buhimba Stadium in Fort Portal that I think works stalled on that one. But at least there are grounds that were identified, and the country is trying to put up some structures. For me, at a starting point, there is some
what I hear from that particular submission is that there is some deliberate effort to ensure that in the long run, Uganda is capable of hosting such tournaments independently, and it's commendable. It's very rare to see that kind of commendation from Elvis Senator. But also, just take me into the world of a sports infrastructure strategy room within either FUFA, National Council for Sports, or the Ministry of Education and Sports. We knew a long time ago that we were to host the AFCON in 2027, and the CHAN is more like the precursor, the one that demonstrates not only to the fans here and all other stakeholders, but most importantly FIFA and CAF, that these guys are ready and that we have ultimate confidence in them. When I see the works that are going on right now, this is the kind of stuff that happens on a daily in communities where you're told you have a Thanksgiving in 3 weeks' time, and then 2 days to the Thanksgiving, you're still fixing the few things here and there. It's a culture, isn't it? Or it's a genuine failure on the part of FUFA.
Maybe as Ivan comes in, he said something at the start of this segment about how you cannot separate what happens
the way the running of the country.
Running of the country.
Okay.
You've given some good, you said some good examples. Uganda has hosted some major events. We hosted Chogam, but we all remember how the state.
I mean, we planted trees on the very on the day the summit began.
There was the NAM summit. The same thing happened, and that's in the space of about what 10-15 years. So it seems these are recurrent issues, or that seems to be the way we operate.
The way we operate
as a country.
Ivan, what is on the ground when it comes to sports infrastructure?
Well, what is on the ground is that one, we don't have infrastructure, but we are, like Elvis said, we're trying to put up infrastructure. But there is a major challenge, and the major challenge is on even the National Sports Act will perhaps not address it, or has not addressed it. I mean, for example, you've seen how Nakivumbo is now owned. We don't even know how it came to be owned the way it's owned currently.
Come again? We don't know what?
We don't know how it came to be owned currently, but the National Sports Act says
public partnership.
About it's a PPP, but for some reason public participation has never been. We have never gotten to see a copy of that agreement or whatever it was, as is one of the principles in PPPs. But let's go back to the National Sports Act. The National Sports Act says that public sports facilities, and unfortunately that act does not define what public sports facilities are, or give examples, are supposed to be invested in the National Council of Sports. I don't know if, for example, Nakivumbo, which even has its own law, is a public sports facility, or even Nambole, maybe because it's owned by government, maybe it is. But therein perhaps lies the biggest problem. And because of the fact that some of these structures are owned under different arrangements. For example, there's currently a dispute that I read about yesterday or the other day, involving Kapeka. It's called Kapeka in Imbara. There's a Kacheka, sorry. There's a fight between Imbarara City and Imbarara District. National Council of Sports had come in to say it want to renovate, but they told National Council you have no rights over a stadium. So there's now a fight between those guys, and National Council has been blocked from doing whatever it wants to do. So it's a challenge as far as the ownership, management, and running of the sports facilities is concerned. And unfortunately, the Act does not properly clarify that. And even the regulations that I saw, the draft regulations that are out, do not go into that, maybe deliberately because they know it's very controversial. But even the wording of that Act, and I've said this before this show, is very intentional. It uses the words like management and maintenance shall be by National Council, not necessarily that ownership, because perhaps they are alive to the fact that we have these challenges. So there's a major challenge concerning that, and I don't know what we shall do going forward regarding these sports facilities.
Okay.
Hopefully, maybe one day we shall get a solution.
Some sort of miracle.
Yeah.
All right. We're hoping to be joined by Rogers Mulindwa, member of the executive of the football, the FUFA, that is. Maybe he can have some answers that are pinpoint with regard to what particular strategies are in place for the rollout of infrastructure for sports across the country, so that the nation does not find itself in situations like these that some might describe as an embarrassment. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. 4 minutes after 8 o'clock, the Kickstarter discussion does continue here on Morning at NTV, and we are talking CAF rescheduling the CHAN 8th edition, tracking progress in sports infrastructure development, and CAF's dedication to standards, that is organizational standards that as we know right now, have not been met by Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya in getting ready to host CHAN and ultimately AFCON in 2027. We're now joined on set by Rogers Mulindwa. He's the executive member of FUFA, and we also have on set Ivan Ojakol, a sports lawyer, as well as the usual suspect, the man that does the sports updates here on Morning at NTV, Elvis Senano. The two gentlemen, allow me engage Mr. Mulindwa on this particular development, what your take is, but also be honest with us, because many stakeholders are saying all the signs of a postponement were there, and that maybe we chewed a little bit more than we could swallow as a country. We had to be honest about the fact that the preparations and the ability to pull this off might be one that has to come from deep.
Thank you very much. First of all, I apologize. I came in a little bit late. But for our viewers, they should be informed that when I sit here, I'm a very reliable source to comment on issues of CAF. 4 years in the CAF Media Committee, 8 years as a spokesperson of SECAFA, 12 countries, 17 years in the Executive Committee. I'm a member of the CHAN and the AFCON Committee, Subcommittee on Communication and Signage as the Vice Chair, deputizing Dr. Mugimba.
Okay.
So I'm not here to speculate, but to give facts about this.
We are honored.
Now,
I'm surprised you haven't mentioned the NRM bid.
But that's the government. Of course, it's, you know, this tournament wouldn't have been possible without the government support. But thanks for that one also. But now the issue is, the event is owned by CAF. It's their event. But what was so interesting in their statement is that the CAF president was impressed with the work being done in the 3 hosting countries of Tanzania, well, no, of Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda. You know, that's the order, alphabetically. So they had the results. The fact is, Uganda could have been a little bit ahead of the others, because what we all needed is Nambole to host this, the CHAN. The AFCON, we need a second one, which is Hoima under construction. But for this, we needed Nambole, and the tournament would go on. But we take a collective responsibility now, because we are one unit. Though some people may be seeing 3 countries. So if something happens in Uganda, it affects all of us. So the postponement gives all of us an advantage. First of all, those who are ahead of the others will perfect the game. We are going to do more than what we have done. Those who are still lagging behind, the opportunity is there that they should speed up so that they catch up with the pace. But it's not only this side of the countries, but everybody, including you, the fans, whose mangoes would not have been ready by February, your maybe pineapples would not have been ready by February. Now you have an opportunity to tap into the available resources as Chani comes here in August. So it's not a sign of failure. If it was a failure that CAF did not see hope, then they had the right to pull off this and carry it elsewhere. It has happened before. But you see in the statement, you could even read and see where CAF commends the 3 heads of state for Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda, that they have done very good work. So we are committed. And for us, the negative energy will not take us astray. We shall remain focused. We've had the negative talks even before we won the bid. When we said we are going to bid for this tournament, and people said, impossible. In Uganda, these things are common, but not only in Uganda, in Africa, it's common. They said it cannot happen. When we got it, then they said, but it will not still happen. But this thing is going to happen. That's one fact. It will happen. My appeal to all of us would be that can we bring together our brains where there are areas that need to be patched up? Can we do that? Okay?
I'm glad you talk about bringing brains together. And my apologies for halting you in your tracks there. When you say bring our brains together and maybe brainstorm on ideas, it shows maybe a lack of a concrete strategy initially on the part of the government in as far as ensuring that the country is ready for this is concerned.
That's not true. The whole story started with that commitment fee where we had to pay the $30 million. First of all, even before that, actually, the guarantee, written guarantee that the states or the governments had to send it to CAF. Ours here was authored by Mama, the First Lady, and Minister of Education and Sports, and it went to CAF. Because there is that commitment. Well, it could be the FA organizing this, but the government is like state-to-state issue. We are going to host different countries here, so the government must be there. So that was first step of readiness. The letter went, and the commitment. Now, two, they said you need 90 million US dollars as a commitment fee. Each country, 30 million US dollars. Our money is already paid.
There.
Now, you cannot be blaming the government now. And we are working under a very able leadership of the First Lady, who is the chairperson of the LOC, the Local Organizing Committee, where she has not attended our meetings, because she commissioned us. But where she has not attended our meeting, the court chair is there, Honorable Peter Gwang, and these meetings are on, they go on. When he's not there, the vice chair, who is the FUFA president, Honorable Moses Magogo, is there. And let me tell you, when you look at the composition of the committees that are doing this work, it's not all about those in football, but we have incorporated different brains from the ministries, from the security, from media. He's the former editor, Mark Anamanya, is there. Marcus Sally's former editor is there. We have lawyers on board. So we are actually, it's ours as Ugandans, as East Africans.
All right.
As I would expect. But I agree with him on 2 points.
Yeah.
The commitment fee, or the commitment, and then the money being availed. But one of the reasons why this tournament is postponed for the second time is because some of, he mentions the profile, he's been going through the profile of the people in charge of committees and all.
Yeah.
But the FUFA president, Moses Magogo, I think should have been last year, came out with a statement and said, maybe PDF does not have the capacity to construct Mandela National Stadium to the required FIFA standards. I'm holding a copy, I have a copy of the New Vision this morning, and they have a story. While we are using Mandela National Stadium, there are still further renovations that are taking place. And some of them, I think, for me, were basic, and should have been pointed out a lot earlier. But works are still going on. There is a change of the playing surface into a hybrid one. They missed out on, I think there was no access, easy access for people with physically handicapped. And even the media tribune itself, it's a bit makeshift. When Rogers has traveled, and Ivan and Chris, you've traveled elsewhere and been to these stadiums, where you see the media tribune, probably it's also going to change. So these are things at the start that you thought should be worked upon. But because sometimes you think you do not have exactly the right people in charge, we keep on doing things repeatedly, and that's why we continue having some of these endless construction, because once you say now number is ready, it's supposed to be used, it's the one that we have that fits the FIFA standards and all, but still there are works that are still happening at this point in time. So while maybe you can give credit that the facility is there, the renovations were done, but some of these things should have been sorted out a lot earlier. The speed at which we are working is extremely slow. That's why I have issues with government. Maybe there is been focus now, more focus on sport and all, but the speed at which we are operating is
so the gentleman is here. Push that particular question.
The observation is okay. And let me tell you, world over, all these facilities have one area that can still be improved for the better. World over.
That is right.
And even without these likely changes, that stadium would have hosted Chan. And in between Chan and AFCON, maybe this would have gone on. The changes would have been effected. Yeah, it is true, because I'm even aware the pavilion of Nambole will have to be adjusted a bit, and it's going to look a little bit bigger, some glasses well placed and what, that is okay. We're even advocating that for people accessing Nambole from the eastern gate, the other Jokers, side of the Jokers, where you, the media people, always find me and you pass there. By the way,
Jokers is a hotel, which should be very clear. When you say...
Oh, okay, the hotel, yes. we were looking at a possibility that can we construct a road so that the fans don't interfere with the competition zone. Where the players and the buses pass. Okay. So all these things can still be done. But even without them, CAF was telling us it's okay. it's ready. But now we want to make it a little bit even better, that in the future we can even have the club, the Continental Club finals played here, and we proceed hosting them. So the work is good. More changes will come in Ambole. That's okay. Of course, when the president came out and commented on the UPDF, that was very positive, and that's why we are saying we wanted everybody on board. Positive criticism. And you see, there were things that were being done, and we felt as people in football, we needed it differently. I can assure you that we still believe the running tracks on these facilities are not necessary. You have seen the Premier League where the fans and the players are almost close. A player would come like here to celebrate with the fans. And some fields, some stadia, you would see the players are a little bit far. And these are things we keep recommending. And I'm telling you, there is a very good relationship between us as people in football, the government, and even the other stakeholders. But all in all, the UPDF have done a very good job. And that's why we have entrusted them to continue with the training grounds in Chambogo, in Makerere, and they are proceeding very well.
Maybe we can have a bit of perspective when it comes to UPDF's work at Nambole and how efficient it is. What kind of contract management system was kind of crafted to allow for the UPDF to do this job? But most importantly, the time frame, because UPDF has been known, by the way, this is it's a fact, to be effective when it comes to engineering and construction of facilities. The fact that this has gone on and on, what does it say about the understanding that was reached?
Well,
there's a lot that we don't know.
There's a lot that we don't know about, but the last time I appeared at this show with the UPDF's spokesperson, Colonel Deo Akiki, he put up a case for why UPDF is involved, because they wanted the National Army, but also said they had all the capacity. And he even cited the UPDF Act that apparently empowers them to participate in nation building activities like these. And also I think because there had been a lot of corruption and what have you from previous contractors when it came to similar projects. But I remember putting him to task and telling him that there was a facility in Makerere that hosted some netball championship. Netball championship was that?
It was World University.
The more or less abandoned, and it was the UPDF in charge of it. But he promised that when he came, he conceded on that point, I remember, but he promised when he came to Nambole that they were going to put up a good show. We must give them credit, I think. Under the circumstances, they've tried. But perhaps, I think for me, going forward, these projects should be for high-level contractors like Suma, the likes of Suma. I mean, you see what they're doing in Hoima, and everyone's giving them plaudits for that. Really, in as much as yes, we want to cut costs on the UPDF in line with national interest, should also be given an opportunity to do this, because apparently they have the capacity internally. But I think such projects should be left to proven contractors with track records like Suma through these PPP arrangements and what have you. I look forward to see what the Arab contractors are going to do in Lira and elsewhere, but for me, Suma with their track record in Kigali and Senegal and elsewhere, really, those for me are the people I will be vouching for. Yeah,
in addition, both of you, Ivan and Rogers, you mentioned Chambogo. To actually paint a clearer picture, Chambogo was one of the grounds that were supposed to be used as a training pitches. But the pace at which UPDF have been doing their works has been quite slow, probably because maybe the money is not released on time, but there were timelines that were given by CAF.
Maybe they're waiting for orders.
They usually do. They usually do. So, but I think government has to also understand that there are timelines that are given by CAF and FIFA. So if you agree that you're going to host a tournament in February, you have to try and ensure that you fit those timelines. And for me, that's why I have an issue. I think eventually the ground will be completed and good work will be done.
And maybe that's the question.
But the speed at which, because you cannot even guarantee now that even works will be completed, even in August.
Will be done.
Because we had September, we've had February, and still it's pretty much the same issue. So what assurances can Rogers give us this morning?
Yeah,
that in 6 months now we're going to be ready.
I want to throw it to him exactly the way you've done, and also maybe in line with the fact that Uganda was able to pay the initial amounts of money required by CAF, commitment fees, and then there's the 90 million, is it $90 million you said? That was also paid. Now a country is able to pay the commitment fee and then pay another staggering sum of money, but is unable to work within the time frame to deliver bags of cement, to deliver sand, to ensure that the connecting roads and hotels and other facilities that would allow for this tournament to go on are in place. These things disturb the conscience of some of the stakeholders.
Yeah, true, they do. Because first of all, we are getting into this the first time. First time AFCON is getting closer to East Africa, and within East Africa. It's a new experience. And
what do you mean by that exactly?
It's a new experience that, for instance, in Uganda, we've never hosted a tournament of that magnitude. We are coming in the first time. So there are things, you see, but you have seen how supportive Parliament has been in releasing the money. Even when you went for the award of the bid, we even went with the Deputy Speaker, Right Honourable Deputy Speaker, we wanted everybody to be on board. First of all, it has been deliberate for us as FUFA to get football closer to those in decision-making positions. If you in the past, you could see our FUFA president getting into State House, donating jerseys to His Excellency the President, when the President could juggle the ball. You could see it was deliberate that we get closer to him. So that is a part of us now, and we have succeeded with that.
The end justifies the means.
No, you don't need to worry. Now, what's happening? I don't believe so much. I know Suma, really, they are very good, and that's why we have them in Hoima. But as we continue giving out our money to the foreigners as well, for that good work they're going to do for us, we can also be building our own people and empowering them. The UPDF can still do the same work. What they needed to do from the inception was to get clear guidance so that everything, otherwise putting a brick after the other and maybe the pipes, water and the water, these are things everybody can do. But who...
But we keep failing at them.
No, we are not failing. I'm telling you, we are not failing. We shall get there. And I'm telling you, every Ugandan will be happy at the end of the day. Everybody will be happy. But to me, UPDF, what they are doing is very positive. And Suma and the Egyptian company in Akibwa, maybe this could be their last. Yes, if UPDF can perform well to our satisfaction, and in Ambole is successfully pulled off, and then we have Hoima, we have Akibwa by Egyptians, then we can, next time we may say, okay, these people can do. Because the one who certifies. The other thing I was explaining when I said, well, even without these improvements, Ambole would still be good for the tournament, is that CAF and FIFA have what we call the classification of these facilities. We have from level 1, level 2, 3 and 4. For instance, I would tell you that Nakivu Hamza Stadium, we are fighting to get into level 3. That's why you have seen all these tests being done, being allowed to host CHAN qualifiers. The CHAN qualifiers can only be hosted in level 3. Though we still don't have that certificate from them, but I know maybe very soon it will come. But now for Nambole is higher in level 4. And when you get there, not everybody in that level 4 have exactly the same things. Others may look better than the others. Okay. So this one to us is to me, it's a very, very positive thing. And even talking from the political side, we can't let it go. Okay. We shall do whatever we can within our means as government to make sure Ugandans have an opportunity. The younger people have that opportunity to watch these players. If Egypt is coming here, let them watch some of these players in 2027. Maybe Muhammad Salah should be watched live here. But even before that, we are ready for CHAN.
Okay, we're inching closer to our next break, but allow me use 2 minutes and ask the question that you brought up, the issue of the Nachivo Stadium. I understand it's a PPP, right? Private-public partnership, apparently. Now, I'm wondering if this arrangement was clear at the beginning that government was entering a partnership with a private investor to build a facility like this. These levels must have been pretty determined and known to the actors and the stakeholders. What are we building? Is it something that can stand to level 3, 4, as CAF requires or as FIFA requires, or we're understanding and getting to know about these levels after the facility has been built?
I'm the chairperson of the management committee of that facility. And I happen to have been on the board before the construction was done.
The construction.
A little bit before that, they changed it.
So
there was that board.
We have every right to fault you.
If I'm called another day, and you indicate properly that the discussion is going to be along that line, I will be able to provide the answers you want. But for now, what I can assure you is that we have passed most of the tests. And our target as Hams Stadium Nachibobo is to ensure that we hit the top. We have brought in something new, the first of its kind in this country and in the region. Those executive boxes you see. So we are not working for the worst. We want to tap into the top level.
Rogers, I think what Chris is asking is why has it taken that long for you to realize you are a well-traveled person? You know these things. Why has it taken that long for you to realize that some of the works that were done at Nachivubo were not supposed to be done the way they were done?
Initially it was the way the stadium was. The Nachivubo people knew the same surface. I mean, the same area the facility was covering. That can you put something better than what was there? That was the understanding. And actually, Hamis Chigul stretched even beyond our expectations by putting up something even far better than what we had even thought. If we had to go for a facility that Elvis is talking about, that would have been that the whole of Wino would have been cleared, even this side, so that you provide parking space and all the others, which wasn't provided for.
And this was a business project. It was not a sports project. That is all I
the way it was there, small
and Chris, if I may chime in.
Please.
And from what Mr. Mulindwa has said, it speaks volumes. Again, the wider role of locations coming in. You know, things were treating sports casually because apparently it was games at first. It is more serious business. If you're talking about PPP, if you're talking about things, where is the public participation? Why don't we know what is in that arrangement with Mr. Hamchigundo? If it's this AFCON here, why don't we know what, for example, these countries are supposed to say that what they call host agreements to have these tournaments. Why don't we know what is those agreements? Where can I get them if I wanted to find one? For example, what are the implications of Uganda if we pull it off in August? And there are some financial implications. You mentioned guarantees. So things like those, again, the same way things are run, petroleum agreements, you don't know where they are.
No.
It's again sports.
No, Council, if you want these documents,
yes,
please walk into the minister's office.
Yes.
You'll have them.
How many people are going to walk into the ministry?
That's it.
Open
But the council should
somewhere.
know. Council should
If
know.
the man in a suit like he is,
But
fine
council,
lawyer,
I won't get
council should know that when they are drafting
Should be a website
agreements
somewhere.
for us, there are even clauses they put.
confidentiality.
No, but if the hours allows, you just walk
a tournament
there
like this one cannot be confidential.
But they have those provisions.
Interesting there, gentlemen. Time now for a short break. When we return, we shall look at the finer aspects of this particular dilemma that the country finds itself in, including the fact that draws have been conducted. That means if we are actually able to pull it off in August, we should be able to know round about now which countries we shall be facing as we try to sanitize what is no doubt a very, very unbecoming development. Stay with us. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back. We are discussing CAF's rescheduling of the CHAN 8th edition to August that Uganda was due to host in February. The ramifications are beginning to be felt, but the reassurances are also coming through. And on set, we have with us Rogers Mulindwa, an executive member of FUFA. I also have Ivan Ojakol, a sports lawyer, as well as our very own Elvis Senono, the sports presenter and analyst. Gentlemen, let me shift from the introspection and then look at what ought or can be. The draw was conducted yesterday, right? Elvis,
Yes, it was.
where are we on that? Is Uganda in the group of death, or we are going to have an easy pass?
Maybe before we get into the draws themselves, maybe Mr. Mulindwa painted a picture. He usually paints rosy pictures. What assurance can you give us about the tournament actually taking place? Because you might have all this passion, Uganda might have all this passion, the commitment and all, but how ready are our neighbors?
What is your
Because
reply to
there is the
CAF?
precedent. Kenya, 1996, failed to host AFCON. Kenya, 2018, failed to host CHAN. And we have them as part of the co-hosts.
I can guarantee that the three countries will finally have the tournament hosted. Kenya, of course, they have had the issues of the election. The FUFA president, we now have a new one. The Minister of Sports, a new one. Tanzania, they are going to elections. But still,
talking elections, Tanzania's elections are in October this year.
Yeah.
We will also be into the political season.
We shall also be in an FA election. But
FA election as well. And the general election.
The status quo.
Will the tournament really take place?
One thing I want to assure you is that we shall have, it's okay, we shall have it. Every country, let me tell you, Elvis and me,
dose of optimism.
Elvis and me, I have been to these CAF competitions in Bebein, Equatorial Guinea, I've been to World Cup in South Africa as an official, not a fan. But by the time you reach there, you may think things are, they look, they are good, very perfect, but when actually even on the last day, people are still struggling to do a few other things. These are the issues we want to avoid in Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania. Or in Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda. That's how we have been advised. So Kenya will be ready, Tanzania will be ready, Uganda will be ready. You people just take it from me, CHAN is coming here. And if CAF had not seen that, they had the right to call off the tournament and it goes elsewhere. If anything, there were countries that were saying, bring it here, bring it here. You know, these countries in North Africa and elsewhere in West Africa. But we are ready. We shall do this thing. We shall do this thing.
But also, some things are beyond even the hosts, the co-hosts. Because we've been discussing, and our producer flashed or showed the groups. But Uganda does not know two of its group opponents. And actually, another qualifier is apparently going to be played to fill those two slots. So for a tournament to happen, these are 17 nations that we know. Then CAF initially were communicating that the tournament would have 19 nations. Now those two are missing. So when are the qualifiers going to be played? Because some countries were not comfortable with the calendar because maybe they had other engagements, league engagements to fulfill. And for a major tournament, for us to be at this stage and we're not too sure who is going to take part, who is certain, it still raises doubts, Rogers.
But, you know, as I said, this is a CAF event. They organized it themselves, and I think they have a better plan that we shall get there. Our interest is to make sure we have the facilities ready. The technical part of it, who plays who, it's CAF. Me, my interest was you look at a group and say it's Uganda, it's Niger, it's Guinea, and the two others. Whoever comes, Uganda is having an opportunity. This is just an opportunity for us to play any other country. I wish in this group we had countries like Egypt, what would take them on seriously. Would take them on. Let our boys get that exposure. Of course, I know there are going to be some technical challenges that the boys we had summoned now. You can't know what will happen between now and August. Some will have dropped off. But again, maybe Omedis that were not on the squad will have recovered and they will be back. So this thing has both edges. It can be an advantage and a disadvantage. But for Uganda to be playing in Guinea, Niger, we have played these countries before. We shall take them on.
We shall take them on. All right, let's allow Ivan Ojakol, given his good offices as a sports lawyer. Maybe the business aspect of the sector is one that Uganda is primed for takeoff.
Well, first and foremost, likes of Rogers are in the local organizing committees. They've not invited us, but it's okay, shall
No, we shall still co-opt some members.
I think the rest of us may not tap into the windfall that is going to be. But there's a wider question, and this has been debated elsewhere. South Africa, I think even Russia. Of course, sometimes is an agenda by the Western media to make some of those countries that they don't agree with that host the World Cups make them look bad. But Elvis mentioned the word white elephants. Ideally, these sports facilities, now like in Hoima, beyond the oil, Hoima City Stadium should really take Hoima as a district, as a city to the next level. The people around. Are the people going to really tap into those opportunities? Hopefully they do. But what happens after? The Olympics has even come up with a way of doing it. They even have a legacy requirement in their host agreement that you, the host city, should show us what are you going to do after this tournament, as far as trickling down the benefits of the tournament to the people is concerned.
That's right.
So, white elephant, shall we be able to maintain that stadium? Shall we be able to ensure that, I don't know, football around the stadium?
Oil money should be able to fund some sports activities in the region.
Maybe that. So
a few sports clubs coming up.
Yeah, so
we could have like 5 within Hoima district that pretty much give the rest of the teams in Kampala a run for their money. Maybe that could work.
Hopefully.
You see, it's also deliberate that we are not going for huge facilities. Hoima is 20,000 seater.
Okay.
So we want facilities that will be managed. It's a big cost to manage them. In Kenya, for instance, I've been there over African issues. They have an independent body that maintains these facilities across the country in all provinces. That's something a little bit unique.
Okay, gentlemen, many thanks for your perspectives. This conversation cannot be exhausted in its entirety here on Morning at 10 TV. I do hope that later when Elvis Senono returns, especially on Omumuli Gwemizanyo, the conversation can take the deep